Week 13 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units. I'm ranking this week number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, I know their defense has been hit or miss this season, but right here they're home. They got a good matchup versus the Denver Broncos that are depleted. And Russell Wilson looks a shell of himself this season with this team not moving the ball. At running back, I know Latavius Murray's been decent, but he's not an impact running back like he used to be, where he's going to have monster ball games week after week. So this Raven team, after coming off a bad loss versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think this week here they bounce back and they're going to get to Russell Wilson early and often. Him and Cortland Sutton are pretty much the only connection Wilson has. And after coming off a bad ball game versus Carolina defense, which isn't that great, I think the Ravens pounce in this one, and I got them at 1. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills here Thursday Night Football tonight. Great division matchup, no doubt about it. I think it's going to be a grinded out type of ball game for the most part in this one. And we know this New England offense is challenged of moving the football down the field, even though we saw it last week. They went up and down the field with Mac Jones going over 350 yards passing in that ball game for a big fantasy day. But right here, I think the Bills could get to Mac Jones early and often. I think the game plan here for the Patriots, they're going to try to run the ball a lot and keep Josh Allen off the field here, where this Bill team's going to sell out on the run, I think, and have Mac Jones try to beat him in this one. So I think the Bills are going to get back to the basics in this one. I know last week was a scare at the Detroit Lions, but right here I think this Bill defense buckles down in this ball game, a big Division 1, and has a great day, and I got them at 2. Number 3, the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks is a 1-week only use here for fantasy football. Have one of the best matchups you could ask for out of the Los Angeles Rams team that gives up the most fantasy points. Matthew Stafford's out, Cooper Kupp's out, Allen Robinson out for the season, and at running back it's pretty much Kyren Williams and Cam Akers and a banged up offensive line. So right here, Bryce Perkins, he had trouble last week moving the football through the air, and I think he's going to have trouble once again here versus Seattle Seahawks team. So the Seahawks defense, like I said, not that great, but they could take advantage of a great matchup, and this week I think they will, and I got them at 3. Number 4, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns, you know, they ramped up as a team to get Deshaun Watson back. I know they're 5-7 on the season. It's been a tough year here for this Cleveland Brown team, but I think they could bounce back in a little bit over the next few weeks. And you know, this defense is going to come out and show up here for Deshaun Watson out of Houston Texan team that can't move the football. Kyle Allen, I know he looked a little bit better than Davis Mills, but that's not saying much in last week's ball game at the Dolphins. So right here, I think Myles Garrett gets his in this one, shutting down Kyle Allen, getting a few sacks, and I think the secondary can make a few turnovers in this ball game. So I got them at number 4. Number 5, Dallas Cowboys. So the Dallas Cowboys, their defense has been a pretty solid unit for the majority of the season, and on Thanksgiving it was a mediocre ball game for the defense, but they made the plays when they had to versus the New York Giants. This Cowboy defense obviously has possibly the defensive player of the year in Micah Parsons. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's been playing good football, and Brandon Williams has come out of nowhere on the D-line as well. And Trevion Diggs this season, he's been a little bit better in coverage than he was last season. So right here, this Colt offensive line is in shambles. Obviously, they got the great offensive lineman Quentin Nelson, but besides that, no one can block, and I think Micah Parsons is going to feast in this ball game. And once you get a hand on Matt Ryan, he's going down, especially at the age of 37 now, with his mobility pretty much gone. So I think this Cowboy defense, they're going to put on 4 or 5 sacks in this one and possibly a couple turnovers as well. Number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs here, their defense definitely hasn't been up to snuff like you expect it to be coming into the season. But this week here, they verse a challenged offense that can't move the football consistently. Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton at this point, a veteran in this league who's bounced around with 3 teams in the last 3 seasons. So right here, it's a big game for the Bucs. It's a big game for the Saints too, no doubt about it. A weak division this year, 5-6 over there in the South and the NFC. But right now, this Buc team, I think, could get pressure on Dalton. And just like Matt Ryan, he's a guy, once you get a hand on him, he's pretty much not going to go anywhere, and you're going to get the sack. So I think this game could be a low scorer, mid-teens, low 20s in this one between these teams. And I think the Bucs could get Dalton a few times. And you know, Dalton's good for at least 1 or 2 interceptions per week. Number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers, they've been coasting over the last few weeks here for the most part. But this week here, the toughest test in a while, I believe, with a high-powered Miami Dolphin offense coming to town, where you got Tua getting that football out quick. You got quick wide receivers in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill that, if you can hold them to 80 yards, that's bottling them up. That's how good those guys have been this season here. And this is Mike McDaniel coming back to San Francisco, where he was a coach under Kyle Shanahan. So this is going to be a great ball game, one of the better games of the week here, I believe, here with the Niners and the Miami Dolphins coming to town. And we'll see what these teams are made of here with similar type of systems and similar type of coaching, obviously. So right here, the 49ers, we know, is one of the better defenses in the league. Their ball-hawking defense. And Nick Bosa has been a monster once again this year. Number 8, Green Bay Packers at the Bears. So right here, we're not 100% sure if Justin Fields is going to play. And I know last week this Packer team got embarrassed, giving up 300 yards rushing to the Philadelphia Eagles. But obviously this Bear offense, their offensive line has problems. We know Justin Fields is elusive, but there's going to be times where you're going to get a hand on him, and he's not always going to escape if he plays. But if Trevor Siemian plays in this ball game, this Packer defense could be a top 5 defense this week, no doubt about it. So the Packers here, they think they still got a chance. That's why Rodgers is probably going to start, but they're 4-8. Yeah, they still got mathematical chance, but they need a lot of scenarios. But I think the Packers could come out. They've owned the Bears over the last decade here, and I think they could have a decent fantasy day here with anywhere from 8 to 10 fantasy points is a possibility, I believe. Number 9, Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles here, their defense has been pretty solid this season, no doubt about it. A couple hiccups here and there throughout the year, but this week here, they're versus a Tennessee Titan team for the most part that's been one-dimensional this year. Derrick Henry, we know he's one of the best running backs still in the league. Ryan Tannehill, yes, the passing yards have been there, and Traylon Burks has definitely been a help to the passing game. But if they pretty much can lock down Traylon Burks in this one, they're going to make him one-dimensional. And we know Derrick Henry's a load, but last week Cincinnati had the blueprint, how to slow down Derrick Henry in this Titan offense. And I think the Eagles come out in a home game after last week where the Packers did put up a good day, where they went up and down the field with tons of yards in that ball game as this Packer team. I believe, though, this Eagles team comes out, got Dominic Sue for a reason to stop the run, and they'll make this Titan team one-dimensional and have a decent fantasy day. At number 9, number 10, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders, the last 3 out of 4 weeks, have reached double-digit fantasy points in league. So right here, good matchup at the New York Giants. We know this offense is pretty much one-dimensional with this Giant team. It's Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones trying to make plays with nothing into something. So right here, I think they can make a few plays at the New York Giants as his Commander team. We know Chase Young's been back over the last few weeks here for this defense, and he's definitely a guy that could be a handful when he's in the zone. We know this offensive line in New York isn't all that great. So I think the Commanders, they've been a solid unit over the last month of the season, and this week here, I think they could crack the top 10. At number 10, number 11, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers here, TJ Watt's been back over the last few weeks, and this defense is starting to lower the score for the opposing offenses. And this week here, Marcus Mariota, he's been a middle-of-the-pack quarterback, but he's another guy that his accuracy hasn't been good this season. Him and his receivers aren't on the same page. And even Kyle Pitts, before he went down at the tight end position, wasn't doing much for this team. So I think this Steelers team could hold them in the teens to low 20s, get a few sacks. And, you know, Marcus Mariota is good for a couple turnovers as well pretty much weekly. So I think the Steelers are a decent unit, and I got them at 11. And the 12th and final defense I'm ranking this week is the New York Jets. So the Jets, their defense has carried them for the most part of the season here, even though the offense have had new life now last week with Mike White being the starting quarterback, Garrett Wilson having a breakout game, and Zonovan Knight looking like a decent running back prospect in the backfield. But anyway, you know, this defense is a tough matchup, matching up versus one of the best offenses in all pro football. We got to stop Justin Jefferson. Sauce Gardner will be on him. Adam Thielen, still a solid wide receiver. And TJ Hawkinson, one of the better tight ends in the league. And stopping Dalvin Cook is as well. So right here, that's a big load for this defense. They're young and hungry defense, no doubt about it, playing great football. But this is one of the better offenses they're versing all season. This ain't going to be like the Chicago Bears last week for this Jet defense. So right here, it's a good test for them indoors in Minnesota. And this week, I still think they could carve out a decent ball game, but I'm not going to say they're going to be a top defense. I got them at 12, so that's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking here for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.